Growing up, I was always told to look, act, and be a certain way by the people around me. I remember being told to wear cuellos as a kid. Cuellos, for those of you who don't know, is just a button-up shirt with a collar, hence the word cuello. But I didn't really like it because I thought it made me look like an old person. I prefer those long sleeve shirts with like the short sleeves over it. And I also had a pair of black and blue socks that are striped, and I would wear them every single day to school, even though they desperately needed to be washed. I would be told to behave myself and to not act like a child. Yeah, how does a 6-year-old do that? So I did. I was told to act more manly, and I was told not to be girly. Maybe this was where my shyness was born. And you can tell by my voice that I'm not really that manly or machismo anyway, so I guess it didn't work. The grown-ups around me, especially the men, would think it's cute and adorable for 6-year-old me to love Batman. But at the same time, when I also said that I love the Powerpuff Girls, they would all say that I shouldn't watch that because it's for girls. Hey, I just watched the show and I thought that Bubbles going hardcore was sick as hell. And it's like the least girly show ever. Like, they beat the ever-living crap out of everyone all the time. It's so violent, and it's a show for kids. And I never really understood why they would say that, because for me, a good show is a good show. I loved Power Rangers Jungle Fury just as much as I loved Totally Spies. I loved Avatar The Last Airbender just as much as I loved Sailor Moon. I loved rock music just as much as I loved musical theater. The question, are you gay, was scarier for me than the dark as a kid. Back then, even in the early 2010s, it was like the scariest question to be asked as a boy. And this confused me as a kid because I couldn't be gay. I loved Batman and I only had crushes on girls at that point. And it wasn't until I turned 13 that things started changing. It was just that I was going through puberty and I had hormones going through 90 miles an hour. And I had a classmate who was a nightmare to deal with. Very immature, would always tease me, would not act serious in group activities. And this person was also a threat to my art skills. My teacher was not considering only me for poster making competitions. And I was like,
art is my thing.
And then one morning, for whatever reason, this person was nicer all of a sudden. And this person was being less of a prick. And you know that feeling that you get when you start getting a crush? It started to creep up and it felt nice. Only there's one problem. This person was a guy. So that was my bisexual origin story, I guess. Anyway, over the years, I've had run-ins with bisexuality in media that I consumed as a kid. I just didn't know it yet. I was 9 years old when The Legend of Korra started airing. It was the sequel series to Avatar The Last Airbender, and I loved watching it as a kid. I distinctly remember when the last book came out in late 2014. There was a huge online discourse about the Korra and Asami pairing. 10-year-old me didn't know what to feel about it. I couldn't understand the concept of two women being in a romantic relationship because I didn't see that in my personal life. Okay, there might have been a little bit of internalized homophobia in there, just since I was raised to fear and condemn those kind of things. So seeing Korra and Asami, two characters that I've spent watching for over 2 years following their journey, seeing them together in the final shot of the series and it being left ambiguous and open-ended sparked something in me. It feels strange looking back at it now. We have come so far in terms of the representation we have on popular media. It really is a strange feeling knowing that only a decade ago, two female characters in a romantic relationship in an animated show aimed at children, preteens, teenagers, and young adults was revolutionary at the time. Especially since this was a Nickelodeon show, where you have shows like SpongeBob, The Fairly Odd Parents, and Rugrats, whose target demographic is 6 to 11-year-olds. I am so glad that Bryke fought for the idea to get greenlit despite facing major pushback from the network. It was bad enough that the production of Legend of Korra was a mess, to say the least, but thankfully in the end, we got it. I also love the fact that the voice actors for Korra and Asami, Janet Varney and Seychelle Gabriel respectively, were so excited and giddy about the idea for Korrasami.
The nut of like, this is the idea.
Okay.
Right? That they would...
Yeah, I mean, they haven't.
Yeah. We did it. They
So we were going to work one day, and Brian's like, "Hey guys, can we talk in the hall real quick?" And we're like, "Yeah, of course." And we go out there, and he's like, "So, the last scene, we're totally gonna make Korrasami work." And Jane and I were like, "Oh yeah, no, that sounds great. Like that's so unexpected and cool." And he was like, "Yeah. So we're gonna talk to the heads about it and see how it goes, but that's the plan right now. We wanted you guys to both know, so you weren't, you didn't read it or see, and we're completely surprised, or and both of us were just completely supportive, completely actually excited, and I was so surprised. Excited. I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah, well, because and I know Mike and Brian have said it a bunch, but their focus wasn't really on relationships at that point in the series. You know, the final book was not necessarily about that, and I think that the idea of like them realizing that this relationship was developing outside of whatever their plan was, and that in this, and I'm not speaking for them at all when I say this, but from my perspective, sometimes what's so amazing about having your art out there is the interactions with other people and their interpretations, and how that can sometimes inform your perspective on it.
Also, for Korra to be in a relationship where she's going into it with an open mind and an open heart after being tortured by Amon, losing the past lives to Unavatu, being crippled by Zahir, and being told and shown how worthless and irrelevant she is by Kuvira, it's a nice way to give her a little happy ending. Same for Asami. I didn't know it at the time, but Korrasami was probably the thing that I needed to understand what was happening in my life and what would happen in the future. Having said all that though, I still wished I could have enjoyed the party. I wish I could have celebrated the milestone not just as an accomplishment in the Avatarverse, but as a cultural milestone. But I was a 10-year-old who didn't know anything about the world yet, so I can't be too harsh on myself. Now let's fast forward a year later. In 2015, during the start of the school year, my school implemented a change in the students' uniform. A white button-up shirt with blue-green shorts for the boys, and a white blouse with a nautical-style collar with stripes and a bow in the front with blue-green skirts for the girls. Also, I hated that they chose blue-green for the color. It looks so tacky to me. Anyway, I have no idea why I knew this. Maybe through cultural osmosis, but I said to one of my female classmates that the new uniform for the girls resembled Sailor Moon's costume. She looked at me and said, "How do you know Sailor Moon?" That led me into a long rabbit hole in learning all about the queen of all magical girls, Tsukino Osagi, aka Sailor Moon herself. I watched the first episode of the original anime from 1992, and I was hooked immediately. It was a show with style, humor, drama, tragedy, and heart. For a good year, all I was excited after school when I got home is watching a new episode of Sailor Moon. I drew the Sailor soldiers like all the time. The story of Sailor Moon centers around love and Usagi, the embodiment of love. As the soldier of love and justice, Sailor Moon fights for the right for everyone to love and be loved. She possesses an extraordinary amount of empathy and compassion and extends it to anyone and everyone, including those like her enemies. Love is her greatest power, manifested as the silver crystal. Okay, but what does this have to do with my bisexuality? Well, you see, during the course of the series, we have seen the girls through their journey, not just as Sailor Senshi, but as regular teenagers trying to figure out who they are. While the main storylines and the lore of the series is dark, the character-focused episodes are very much slice of life and is essential for character development. In those episodes, we get to see our cast in regular, everyday human lives and deal with things that you and I deal with in the real world, which finally leads us to this. Sailor Moon the series is very gay.
Groundbreaking.
This is not a new idea. In fact, many people have already talked about how gay the show is, like in this video by Anthony. So back to bisexuality. In the third season of the series, Sailor Moon S, we get introduced to two new characters, Tenno Haruka and Kaio Michiru. Not Amara and Michelle, okay? They are both students attending the elite private school, Mugen Academy. They are both extremely rich, piloting their own private helicopters to school. They are both prodigies in the arts and in sports. Haruka is a pianist, professional race car driver, and a skilled runner. Michiru is an accomplished painter, a highly competitive swimmer, and a skilled violinist. Michiru is my personal favorite between the two of them. Anyway, they are both the modern incarnations of Sailor Uranus and Sailor Neptune, respectively, and they are both absolutely gay for each other. While The Legend of Korra's finale was vague and left the viewers with an open ending to form their own conclusions, this was probably the first time in my life where I saw an openly queer couple in a show targeted at a young demographic. And this show aired 2 decades before Korra. In fact, they don't even really make it into a big deal. It's just the fact that Haruka and Michiru are a couple. They go on dates together, they flirt aggressively with each other, and even join a couples competition. That's not to say that they don't deal with prejudice, because they certainly do, which I actually appreciate, because as much as I want to have positive representation in media, I feel like ignoring real-world experiences can be a disservice. It might come off as purely wishful fantasy, whereas in the real world, most queer experiences, especially in the beginning, is full of negativity. So as an 11-year-old going through the first stages of puberty, this confused me again. Sailor Moon is one of the series I watched after Korra, and I remember feeling really endeared by how loving and affectionate Haruka and Michiru are with each other. But as a boy who attends church most Sundays, you get told a lot of negative things about gay people. While I don't remember any explicit chastising from the church I went to, there was always an air of disapproval when it comes to those things. And in some ways, the implication that anything that is not heterosexual is worthy of divine condemnation was probably more effective in steering me away. And while I loved seeing two girls loving each other openly, I was quite wary in my personal life, in school, and at home. Haruka and Michiru's devotion to each other goes beyond the fact that both of them are women. Both of them are destined to be in each other's lives because of their duties as sailor soldiers. So much so that even when promising each other to go on without the other, when they find the talismans, Neptune still chooses to save Uranus. There is also a video by the channel dealing with Nihilism, talking about Sailor Uranus and Sailor Neptune. They make quite an interesting analogy between the transformation of the characters as regular people to sailor soldiers as coming out. The song Eternal Eternity from Sailor Moon Crystal's third season, sung by Junko Minagawa and Sayaka Ohara, the voices of Uranus and Neptune respectively, is a song about their eternal bond to each other. Haruka and Michiru may be the biggest influence for my bi-awakening from that show, but they certainly are not the only one. In the first of the 3 movies, Mamoru is depicted to have a close connection with a male alien named Fiore after he lost his parents in a car crash. A lot of fans interpret this as a romantic connection, and while the film does not explicitly state this, it's not hard to see why. The scene in the beginning of the movie where Fiore takes Mamoru's hands while Usagi is like, huh? Lives rent-free in my mind. Though as affectionate as Fiore is to Mamoru, his affection leaned towards obsession, even physically pushing Usagi to the ground. There's also Zoisite and Kunzite, 2 of the 4 generals of the Dark Kingdom. In the manga and in the second anime, they are implied to have close relationship with the sailor soldiers. In the 90s anime, however, Zoisite and Kunzite are shown as lovers. I like this version of them more because we got to see them more than just villains that we have to defeat, unlike in the manga and Crystal. And their love is never treated like it's wrong. The show treats them the same way as Serenity and Endymion's love, regardless if they are both men and are villains. There is also Fishicide from the 4th season of the series. He is part of the Amazon trio in Sailor Moon Supers. He is depicted as androgynous and mostly seen in feminine clothing. Unlike his fellow companions, Hawk's Eye and Tiger's Eye, who mostly target the dream mirrors of women, Fish's Eye mostly targets men. One man who really catches his eye is, of course, Mamoru. He develops an infatuation on Mamoru and gets into a rivalry with Usagi. During the course of a couple episodes, we really get to see his insecurities unfold, asking Mamoru if he doesn't find him attractive. Usagi even helps Fish's Eye in the next episode. After seeing him drenched in rain despite him declaring the two of them as rivals, Usagi takes care of him and even playfully goes along with his game of rivalry. But not once did Usagi get upset because a guy is thirsting after her man. She's just upset that someone is thirsting after her man. It's not about Fish's Eye's gender. Even Mamoru doesn't reject him because of his gender. He rejects him because he's already in love with Usagi. I guess Mamoru really is popular with men. And don't even get me started with the Starlights. I'm not gonna talk about the Starlights, but this scene is the best scene in the entire series. Anyway, let's get to Usagi herself. While not explicitly stated, it is clear that she is kind of bi-coded, right? She is in a relationship with Mamoru but also gets kissed by Haruka and Seiya in the new anime. She recognizes Sailor Uranus' scent as Haruka's, she blushes when she meets a new friend, and comments on how pretty they are. And what's up with this scene with Rei? So yeah, that's for Sailor Moon. Mulan isn't my favorite Disney film, but it certainly is a strong one. It features quite heavy themes of war and identity. While Mulan herself is not bisexual, her journey is a good example of a person going against gender norms, and a great story for people who are discovering who they are. There's been a lot of discourse through the years about queer Disney anthems, and Reflection is one of them. Jericho Tadeo writes of Mulan for the Asian cut. Reflections themselves play an integral role in Mulan, as obviously embodied by the iconic ballad Reflection. Throughout the film, there are many scenes in which Mulan sees her reflection, whether in mirrors, water, or armor, and it's always a poignant moment. Essentially, the way Mulan sees herself is in constant contention with how others both see her and wish for her to see herself. To her mother, to her father, and country, she must become a bride. She has no other prospect or role in life. And what's more, as sung in Honor to Us All, the best bride she can be is one who is obedient, dutiful, and devoid of thought or opinion. She also gets bonus points if she gets a tiny waist. However, try as she might, Mulan doesn't really fit any of these criteria, a reality that she wrestles with for most of the film. In essence, that's what I call the queer mirror that Mulan looks into whenever she sees her reflection in the film. That fundamental disconnect that a queer person experiences whenever they look at themselves, particularly for young LGBTQ+ folks who grow up being taught to act, live, and desire a certain way, especially 30 or so years ago, at the time of Mulan's release. It's an almost universal feeling to know that you're not meant to be the person others expect you to be. There's the corollary inability to put the distortion into words, leaving you questioning who you are, and, more gravely, believing you are the problem. And I might be grasping at straws for this next part, but just hear me out. A lot of people also consider Captain Li Shang as bi. It's easy to see why with scenes like these where Mulan is disguised as Ping, Li Shang kind of has a soft spot for him. And again, grasping at straws, okay? Grasping at straws. But he was kind of disappointed that Ping wasn't actually a guy, right? Nevertheless, Shang still develops feelings for Mulan and even pursues her at the Emperor's words after she saved China from the Huns. And honestly, who wouldn't fall for Li Shang? I mean, come on! I don't really know how to segue into this next part, so let's talk about Arcane. Arcane is a great show. It's brilliantly written, incredibly well executed, and gorgeously animated. It's It's also a show that gives you heart attacks. When the second season dropped, I watched Act 1 and struggled to keep it together because of the onslaught of things happening on screen. Having grown up with Korra and seeing how big of a deal it was in the mid-2010s that an animated character was possibly in a relationship with a character with the same sex, seeing Vi and Caitlin's relationship on screen and the general audience not really batting an eye at the fact that two women are in a relationship with each other, that made me happy. We are finally at a time where we can include queer narratives to a story and not let it be a box for characters. We just see it and then move on because we have more important things to worry about, like the Noxian conquest and the total annihilation in the hands of the Herald and the glorious evolution. There's also Viktor and Jayce. The creators of the show have stated that they wrote their relationship as purely platonic rather than romantic, stating that there is a love, absolutely, but we also found it a bit, love and relationships are so complex and take so many different forms. I'm actually fine with that. A lot of people really wanted JVic to be a thing, which is understandable. I also wanted them to be together. The writers and artists put a lot of effort into putting subtext on screen, which fueled audiences' interpretations of the characters. Their chemistry from the moment they met at Jayce's destroyed apartment is undeniable. One such example is when they work on experiments with Hextech to prove that it works. They yes and each other, without knowing each other that well at that point in time. The reason why I'm fine with Jayce and Viktor not being canon is because of their overarching storyline. Their bond quite literally transcends space and time. In each timeline, Viktor and Jayce were always meant to meet in the same way, with Haruka and Michiru's devotion for each other, transcending into their modern incarnations. I felt like putting them as romantic partners would have been a bit cliche, so making it vague weirdly works better for their story, at least for me. And love is so much more than romance. With Jayce and Viktor, their love doesn't really need to be told to us directly because it's being shown to us every episode. Little glances here and there, their eyes lighting up when the other is speaking. Jayce, being intrigued when Viktor wakes up from his hex core coma. Their last scene together is of them holding each other as they die in the Arcane. Probably the most beautiful piece of animation in the show, and the show boasts a lot of it. That being said though, there's only so much subtext that I can take when it comes to stories. Subtext is not inherently bad, and in this case, I'd say the Jayce and Viktor thing are subtext well done. However, I do want more explicit romances between two men in animation. I want a story with characters like Viktor and Jayce that are not just about sex and romance, and actually about grown-up, emotional, mature stuff. There's also Marshall Lee and Gary Prince from Fiona and Cake, but I don't really watch the show, so I can't really say a lot about their relationship. What I've seen though, they're very cute. And apparently Gary is voiced by Andrew Rannells, who played Whizzer on Falsettos on Broadway. And I love falsettos. But this is a slice of life show that is overall lighthearted. I would love more relationship stories like that between two boys, but in more serious grown-up shows like Arcane. In another timeline, JVic would have been great. Up until this point, I've only used animation as my examples. This isn't deliberate, it's just that I've always loved animation. Also, subtext and audience interpretations as well as personal takes provide me with a lot of material to work with. But now let's talk about one of my favorite shows that primarily focuses on the journey of finding out your sexuality. Heartstopper is a show that is based from the graphic novel of the same name, written and illustrated by Alice Oseman. I will be talking about the show, not the graphic novel, because I have not read it. So, the show centers around Charlie Spring, a 16-year-old boy who is gay and was outed before the start of the story. He gets paired to sit beside a boy named Nick Nelson, and the show explores themes of adolescent love, peer pressures, identity crises, familial love, and found family. In a 9-episode season with about 30 minutes of runtime, this show does well with showing you cathartic character moments that will tug at your heartstrings. It's the kind of show that you would want to binge when it's raining or when you're sick. It's my kind of comfort show, you know? Charlie is not actually the main focus of this section, despite him being the main character. I'll be talking about Nick Nelson instead, and how well done I think his character arc is. When it comes to male characters who are attracted to the same sex, most YA shows tend to go for the dramatic and angsty route. Characters tend to do toxic and harmful stuff like sleeping with another character of the same sex and then threaten them to keep things a secret. They bully and degrade the other in public, but has no problem with forcing themselves on them in private. While I think this is an okay trope in YA stories, I feel like it's an overdone one. And again, it being a toxic trope, being done over and over again, it portrays same-sex romance as toxic. Mind you, this applies to straight romance plots too, but they also get a lot of wholesome young love stories. So when I watched Heartstopper, I was elated that this show's characters treat each other not as punching bags for tropes, but as actual people. And like Fiona and Cake, this show is also a slice of life show, and it's an easy watch. The drama isn't draining like so many shows about young adulthood, so you can sit through multiple episodes without needing a break. Nick's coming out arc is quite basic, but it works well enough in my opinion. Making it very dramatic and very serious would have clashed with the tone the show was going for. I love that Nick initially just liked hanging out with Charlie because he is just comfortable to be around with. He doesn't have to perform or put on a mask like he does when he is with Harry and his friends. Oh, sorry, mates. That's right, this is a British show. And also because Charlie is just kind. Him catching feelings for Charlie and being confused and afraid is very relatable. Instead of staying with Charlie after they kiss at Harry's party, he bails. When you start developing feelings for someone of the same sex when you are young, because of how society works, unfortunately the first instinct is to be afraid by it. Or at least, that's how I think. There isn't necessarily have to be an intense serious reason for it though, like religious guilt or what have you, because for so long, society has condemned it and we want to not be othered, alienated, or ridiculed. It only makes sense that we push those feelings away to protect ourselves. And when you're young and still developing your sense of self, social currency is everything. That's why I think that when he does accept that he is bi and is going out with Charlie, he is still afraid of everyone finding out the truth. Nick hides and shrinks away when he is around people who would definitely ridicule him like Harry and his mates, but when he is around Charlie and his friends, we see him just be. He is less guarded around them, and that helps him feel more comfortable socially because he isn't being alienated. So when we get to the season 1 finale, him ditching rugby in the middle of a match in front of the whole school feels quite satisfying. He fully gets who he is now and is comfortable in who he is. Mind you, this is still not a public coming out. That wouldn't happen until much later. One of my favorite scenes from the show is his coming out to his mum. I appreciate that there is no music, it's just a conversation and we just sit with the feelings. It's not dramatic or loud. His mum's reaction is just the sweetest. She even apologizes if she has said or done anything to make him hesitate for telling her, even when it's not necessary. And it was just a treat because Nick's mum is played by my queen, Olivia Colman. I know she's not the main focus of the show, but it's always a treat when it's Olivia Colman. God, she's so good in The Crown. Anyways, another character that I really loved is Isaac. He's actually my favorite character in the show, and I only wish that they handled his storyline a bit better. I really can't speak for the Ace aspect of his character since I'm not Ace. He is an example of the loner archetype in media, and that's kind of what I love about his character. A lot of stories treat loners in a negative light, i.e. Evan Hansen, but Isaac is an interesting case for me, because I don't see characters in media that much, or at all, who have friends and still have a disconnect towards them, but still remains loyal despite that. I'll explain what I mean by that. We meet him as the quiet bookworm of the group, and in season 1, he didn't really get that much material to work with. He was just kind of there. The focus of season 1 is obviously about Charlie and Nick, and the side plots go to Tara, Darcy, Elle, and Tao, so Isaac is just left with nothing to go off of. With how much secrecy Charlie and Nick had to go through, all the drama Tao gets into, and also Tara and Darcy's secret relationship, and Elle being out of her place in her new environment, Isaac being in the sidelines sort of protected him from the drama. But again, he was given nothing. There are some notable moments, like when he catches Nick and Charlie at the clinic, but the focus wasn't on him. In Season 2, however, we get more of his storyline. Him dealing with loneliness, using books as a form of escapism to deal with that loneliness, and him figuring out who he is and what he wants. He gets a love interest named James, and when they were in France, they kiss, but Isaac didn't really feel anything. This is where I wished his story would have been handled better, because the show just sort of slapped a label on it and called it a day. Yes, Isaac and James did talk about it afterwards, but it wasn't enough for me. They could have explored the whys a bit more. Yes, he discovers that he does not experience the same romantic connections like the others in his friend group, but why is that? Again, I'm not aromantic or asexual, and me saying, why is he that way, definitely comes across as interrogating something that just is. But where I'm coming from is wanting to understand his character more. He buries himself in literature all the time, and I wanted to see his side on what it's like being him. He reads a lot because he's looking for himself, and I want to see that from his point of view. He often third wheels in the friend group, and that's just kind of it. He doesn't seem to be friends with the new kids like Tara, Darcy, and Imogen, so there's not much going on there either. The others got to have their stories explored, so I wanted the same thing for Isaac. It's been a while since I've seen the show, but there was a scene, I forgot which season, but Isaac was upset because he was feeling left out, and Tara, Darcy, and Imogen were there to comfort him. But again, they don't strike me as close friends since they are extended friends of the group, and they don't really have that many scenes together. That could have been a great way for Isaac to find another perspective on things regarding his identity, especially since the four of them aren't as close, so there wouldn't be as much of a bias, and it would be a fresh start at making new friends. Him and Imogen, I think, might have made good friends. Oh, my queen Imogen deserved more and better. She's the best. Another scene that I loved is a moment from Season 3 where Isaac leaves Tao and Elle because they are just all over each other, and he goes to Charlie's to check up on him. It's a small scene and it's nothing grand, but those are the kind of scenes that leave an impact on me. He asks Charlie if he is doing alright and asks why he stopped replying to text messages. And instead of looking for excuses, Charlie just says, sorry. He has gone through a lot over the seasons, including a mini arc that I'm not going to talk about since it's quite serious and I don't feel like it's my place to say anything about it. But this scene is just a great reminder that Isaac and Charlie are actually friends. Isaac is not just the friend who reads a lot, and Charlie is not just Nick's boyfriend. What makes this scene stand out for me is that it's not treating either party as right or wrong. Isaac is upset that everyone is just basically, or literally even, coupling, and he is genuinely being left out. And Charlie doesn't protest because he too has neglected to check up on his friends, especially Isaac. Isaac then asks if Charlie wants him to leave, but Charlie offers to watch a movie Isaac would love, showing that Charlie knows him so well. It's not a whole spiel about how upset Isaac is or how sorry Charlie is. It's a moment of genuine friendship and companionship. The show is very romance and relationship focused, but the underlying foundation of all that is the friendship of the people who are actually in it. It's just a shame that it gets tossed into the sidelines, but I'm very glad we got this scene at least. And this is what I mean about Isaac having a disconnect with his friends but maintains a love for them. He doesn't fully relate to them and vice versa. However, that doesn't mean that he doesn't care about them, and this scene illustrates that well. It's such a shame that you don't really get scenes like these in shows where friends actually behave like friends, and that's a shame. Overall, even with its shortcomings, this show is great. So yeah, being bi comes with a lot of confusion, but not really. It's weird. Having shows like these, though, makes the process of learning about yourself easier. So that's my story. Happy Pride Month.